Another day, another bold take on quarterback Zach Wilson from somebody in the media. But at least this somebody played the position. That is former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky. Like Dan, like his takes, knows his ball, contributor on the Pat McAfee show. Good watch. And he came out and he said that Zach Wilson, of all the second-year quarterbacks, is most set up for success based on what his team has put around him. And he also threw some pretty bold stat predictions for Zach heading into year two. Now, on the first take, him being in a great position to succeed, we don't need to rehash that. We all agree with Dan there. The Jets have had an A-plus offseason. Let's get to the stat predictions. Dan projected Zach Wilson to have 4,000 yards, plus passing, 30-plus touchdowns, and 10 or fewer interceptions. I mean, you know what? Isn't it interesting, though? All of these pundits or gurus or analysts that are high on Zach watched him play. You can tell that Dan Orlovsky, David Carr, Chris Sims watched Zach Wilson play because they reference specific things about his game and they reference specific games and plays from last year. And guys who obviously didn't watch him play, Brady Quinn, Stephen A. Smith, aren't high on Zach Wilson. That's interesting. Now, where am I with the over-under on these numbers? Let's start with 4,000 yards. And you might dismiss it right away because we all know the Jets haven't had a 4,000-yard passer since Joe Namath close to 50 years ago. But I'm with Orlovsky here. I think that's right on the money. I think Zach is right near 4,000 yards. And we bring up the 49ers a lot, which I get to a certain extent. We're projecting based on their system. And you might say Jimmy Garoppolo never threw for 4,000 yards. Well, number one, I'd say Jimmy Garoppolo was a second-round pick for a reason, and Zach Wilson was the second overall pick for a reason, and that's because Zach Wilson can do things that Jimmy G could never even dream of in terms of arm talent and athleticism. Jimmy G's no slouch, been to a Super Bowl, got the bag, but don't get it twisted. The talent level between the two, it is not close. That's number one. Number two, Jimmy G didn't throw for 4,000 yards last year because he didn't play a full season. He threw 254 passing yards a game, which based on a 17-game season, that's 4,300 yards. So he just came short because he missed 2 games. So what does it take to get to 4,000? 234 yards a game. So can Zach Wilson throw for 90% of the passing volume that Jimmy G did last year? I don't see a reason why he couldn't. Obviously, the Niners' top-tier talent in terms of offensive skill players in Debo and Kittle are better than what the Jets have. But I think the Jets might be more well-rounded, deeper, versatile on the offensive skill positions than the Niners. So I'm right with Dan on the 4,000 yards. Now the 30-plus touchdowns, which would put him, top 10 in the league based on last year, I'm going to push the under on that. I think that's a little high. But not necessarily for a bad reason for the Jets. I think offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, he's going to have a versatile and a balanced play sheet in the red zone. We're going to see a lot of touchdowns run in by Breece Hall, by Michael Carter. Zach Wilson, he had 4 rushing touchdowns last year. He's going to get a handful of touchdowns with his feet. And then we're going to see Berrios and Moore and Wilson on reverses and jet sweeps. And then he's going to get funky and we'll probably see a touchdown or 2 on a trick play, maybe a little Philly special, right? So no problem there. Jets are still scoring touchdowns. I just don't think that Zach Wilson will be throwing for 30 of them. Somewhere between 20 and 30 feels more realistic on the touchdown number for me. And then finally, the 10 or fewer interceptions. I think it's likely that Zach Wilson does throw a little bit more interceptions than that. I do. He threw 11 interceptions last year in 13 games. Obviously, we're going to see improvements with the ball security. But I'm not going to say I hope he throws more interceptions, but I want him to be more aggressive and take more chances, go for more big plays. And I think a byproduct of that with a young quarterback is going to be a few more picks. Okay, so not way higher. I think 12 to 14 interceptions from Zach next year. If the touchdowns are in the mid to high 20s, we can live with that. Okay, because with more volume and big plays, some picks are going to come with that. And that's fine. Now, the volume stats that we just mentioned aren't the end-all be-all to me. They do matter. And obviously we know the eye test and the win column is going to matter most. But I think if we're going to talk numbers, to me, the efficiency stats really are more important because There's a lot of variables with the volume stats, right? How many yards we throw, how many touchdowns. That could be dictated by a lot of things. Are we, doing some ground and pound? Do we have the 10, 11 play drives where we're chewing some clock? Is our defense playing really well, so we're in low scoring games? Are we playing in a blizzard? There's a lot of variables that come into play. So Zach Wilson could have a good season. The Jets could have a good season where the volume of his production doesn't blow us away. But more importantly, when he drops back, how efficient is he? So number one, I'm looking at the completion percentage. That's a number we got to see mid-60s, bar none. Now, interestingly enough, if the Jets had just league average drops last year instead of the worst drop rate in the NFL, Zach Wilson's completion percentage already would have been close to 60%. So just by catching the ball like normal NFL professional football players this year, we'll get him halfway there. The other number I really like to look at that's important to me, it's really indicative of a quarterback's overall performance, is the yards per attempt. When Zach Wilson drops back and lets it rip, on average, how many yards are we getting? All right, it was in the low sixes last year. The really good guys, elite, is over 8. So I'd like to split the difference. Let's get that number over 7 for next season. That's where I'm at with Zach. Not a crazy take by Dan. I'm with him a little bit. Love to see it. Go Jets.